Hi, welcome back to continuing the conversation with Sadie. We are now deep into series 3, a season exploring systems, leadership, and the outer world of care. And today's episode brings those themes right into the centre of the room. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge someone who isn't with us today, but whose leadership made this conversation possible. Carolina Gerlich, CEO of the Care Workers Charity. Carolina, thank you for your generosity, your partnership, and for opening the door to this episode. Your work continues to elevate the voices of care workers and strengthen the future of social care. And today I'm joined by two incredible guests who embody that mission. First, Annie. Hi, Annie.
Hi.
A senior support worker in her 5th year, working in a 12-bed residential setting supporting people with mental health diagnosis and learning disabilities. And boy, do we need those people. Annie brings the craft, the emotional intelligence, we're big on that round here, Annie, and the humanity of frontline care into every space she enters. Second, but not least, we have Olivia Firth. Hi, Olivia.
Hello.
Policy and Projects Manager at the Care Workers Charity. Olivia leads the Care Worker Advisory Board and champions project, ensuring care workers' voices don't just get heard, but actively shape policy, narrative, and decision making. She brings both lived frontline experience and a deep academic grounding in human rights and social justice. Together, we're going to explore the system from 3 vantage points: the frontline, the policy world, and the connective tissue between them. This is the systems we carry. Let's begin. Hi, everybody. We're all together.
Hello.
For section 1, we want to talk about practice, culture, and rights-based care. It's really good to have you all here, and it is very hard to get everybody in the same room at the same time. So first of all, let's acknowledge, that's incredible. Thank you for that. I do want to start with you, Annie.
That's cool. I'm good.
Brilliant. This is a conversation. Let's get tucked in, straight in. When we talk about rights-based care, Annie, it can sound like policy language, but you live it every day. What does rights-based care actually look and feel like in real life?
I think it sort of boils down to at the very heart of it that the person is key in every decision, every part of their care, because they are a human being with unique wants, wishes, desires. They might have goals. They might have special interests, that they may not be able to access without support. So it's all about giving them as much choice and as much control over their care on a day-to-day basis, from the small things to like the big things. Like, we had a resident who we supported to go stay in a hotel on their own. Wow. And just building them up and supporting them so they felt confident, but also
Mm,
making sure that was support was in place. So, you can
yeah,
call us whenever you need us. We're here. And they had the best time. And it's
yeah,
like, it's remembering that life is all about risk. And sort of, just because you're needing health and social care support doesn't mean that you are in a sort of a gilded cage almost. It's about,
yes. I'm glad you brought that up.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
about taking those risks, even if it's just, so for us, for example, staying in a hotel may not feel like a big thing, but for someone who has maybe a mental health
yeah,
diagnosis or a learning disability,
yeah,
that's a big thing. And it's
yeah.
just protecting and promoting their autonomy. Sorry, I could go on. I could go
No,
on.
that is perfect. We're only question 1. That is brilliant. I absolutely love it. This podcast is all about the human side of care,
Yeah.
and your answer nailed it. So thank you. And I hope my listeners got as much from that as just did, because I think that was brilliant. Olivia, we haven't forgotten you. You're next. From your work with the advisory board and champions, what cultural conditions consistently support dignity, autonomy, and personhood?
I think that's a really interesting question. And I think, well, first of all, thank you for having us here. It's really
Thank
appreciated.
you.
I think there are a couple of things really. I think the first thing is recognizing care workers as professionals,
Mhm. Well
and
said.
not saying they're just a care worker, and kind of recognizing the skill, the responsibility, and the risk that comes with being a care worker.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing really is kind of touching on what Annie was saying. when we talk about care, oftentimes the conversation centers around, the dignity, autonomy, and personhood of the people drawing on care and support. And that's
Yeah,
really, really important to recognize. But care workers also deserve dignity, autonomy, and personhood as well. And it's recognizing that care workers are also human beings. They aren't
correct.
robots, they aren't cogs in a machine. They
Yeah,
have their own lives, their own desires,
yeah,
their own wants and needs, and that
absolutely.
should be met. So I think it's, I guess, almost a cultural shift,
Yeah,
really, in
cultural.
actually
Yeah,
saying, care workers are human being. We must treat them as human beings. I
yeah,
think that's something that really kind of supports those
yeah.
elements.
We agree, don't we, Annie?
Absolutely.
She's just grabbing a cup of tea.
I'm going to say
I've
yes,
got to
yes.
say, when we're recording this, everybody, it's a really hot day. We're in a heat wave, and I can actually feel my throat drying up. So I do apologise if I sort of stumble on a few questions.
Yeah, I have my iced tea in my hand. I was like, but I just on that, I work for Making Space, and I'm very, very lucky that I feel like I'm in a company that does take care of us.
Yeah,
Even if it's we had an email from our deputy CEO that's obviously, heat guidance, but not just about residents, about taking care of staff as well.
yeah.
That recognition is so important.
It is, yeah. And I'm self-employed. I'm a care worker. I go out every day myself. So I totally understand what you're saying, Olivia, because I'm getting a bit sick of it as well. But being self-employed, I will check in with my other self-employed friends who support my business and say, how are you doing? Because there's no one looking after us. So it's about us as well as the client. Absolutely agree. And that's such a lovely statement. We were joining in with Olivia. I'm back to you. When you walk into a shift, what tells you, Annie, instantly that culture is healthy or that something's not right?
See, I think the examples I've got, I have come from a retail and hospitality background,
A
and
lot
that
of people have in care. It's funny that.
it's what the skill set you get from sort of working with different people and managing high stress situations has been quite good.
Exactly.
But
Being with people.
I remember walking into those shifts in my hospitality role and just thinking, no, just that instant feeling in your gut that everyone's stressed, this is
Oh,
staff before we've even got onto the floor, and it just doesn't feel good. Whereas the company I'm with now, you walk in and staff are working together, residents
lovely.
are
The
chatting
culture's good.
away. We, in my setting, have made it so it feels like a home. Like we've tried to strip back anything clinical because this is
Mm.
where they live. We've got, as we've mentioned, 12 residents who we're quite a constant presence. So it's really difficult to describe, but it's a gut feeling when you walk in, you go, okay, we might have a lot going on. There might be some issues that have happened, but it's that sense of teamwork, I would say.
So it's a feeling. You walk into a room, you're reading the room, you're
Yeah.
picking up on everybody's sort of energy levels.
Yeah, and just communication. It's like management checking in. It's like, are you guys okay? For example, in the
Yeah,
evening, they haven't. Have you had a drink today? Make
yeah,
sure you get a break. It's the residents who are like, hi, you okay? And we'd have that conversation. Do you want a cup of tea or in this weather, an iced juice?
yeah, yeah,
It's that feeling when you walk in and you know that management have got your back. Team.
yeah. That's a big one.
I'm a senior, so
Yeah.
I'm in the
You're in the
middle.
middle. Yeah.
Between
I've
line.
been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. I
You're the
would
cushion.
yes, sort of the front line,
Yeah.
the grumbles, and then, escalate and fixing issues. But yeah, that's what I'd say.
Brilliant. Olivia, when care workers speak to you about their workplaces, what patterns do you hear around culture, safety, and feeling valued?
It's a really mixed bag.
Mm.
We have, I've engaged with care workers who have really wonderful workplaces, and who do have that feeling of being valued and feeling safe. However, that's not the case for everybody.
Mm.
I think there are a couple of things here. And the first thing is that there are some universal experience in the sector. We
Yeah.
know that care workers are not fairly remunerated for
Mm-hmm.
what their role entails. We also know that the sector is chronically underfunded, and
Yes.
there's a lack of progression pathways outside of, management and nursing. And not every care worker wants to go into management and nursing, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But I think we then also have to understand that there are experiences of care workers that's informed by parts of their identity.
Mm.
whether that comes down to ethnicity, nationality, race, sexuality, whatever it may be. So we've heard from migrant care workers, for example, who are actively told that if they speak out against anything that's gone wrong, then their sponsorship is threatened
Yeah,
as to be revoked. So
that's
that
honest.
doesn't
Yeah.
promote safety
No.
or a feeling of being valued. We actually conducted our 2025 Care Worker Wellbeing Survey last year
Mm.
that garnered responses from over 2,000 care workers,
Wow.
and it was quite interesting to look at some of the statistics that came through. And obviously, we recognise that behind these statistics are human beings, real lives that are being lived.
Absolutely.
34% of our respondents said that their job negatively affected their mental health, but only 52% believed that adequate mental health support was available in their workplace. So, again, whilst we do have some really good experiences, that element of kind of culture and safety and being valued isn't standardized across the sector, and that element of being valued, I think it's really important, and it really goes a long way. And it was really interesting to again see the results from our survey. So 60% said that they believed that their role was adequately valued by their manager. 25% believed that it was adequately valued by friends and family. But where we
Mm.
see a drop is when it comes to the wider public and society, where only 56% believed that their role was adequately valued
Yeah.
by the wider public, which really
Yeah.
speaks to a chronic misunderstanding of the
Yeah.
value of care, and care
Yeah.
workers and what they're doing. So I think it is a really mixed bag when it
It
comes
is.
to workplace culture and safety and kind of that element of feeling valued, where some people have some really great experiences, but those great experiences aren't standard across the sector, and they should be. Everybody should feel safe at work, everybody should feel valued at work, and everybody should feel that they have a culture that they are working in that allows them to speak up, allows them to call out bad practice.
I love that. And this is what this podcast is all about. We're in series 3 now. So series 1 was level 1, reflective practice. You embedded why. Series 2 was how do we apply that? Series 3 we're doing now is about systems. It goes into series 4 and it's an educational tool as well as using technology to get it out there that we are professionals and we have skills. We are skilled workers. And that is what this podcast is all about. And you've just backed that up with what you said. Because if we can use this platform to get it out there from your expertise and all my other guests' expertise, and you're all saying the same thing, people are going to listen. So fingers crossed, guys, we get that out there because we know how important it is. We know it's a real issue and we need to educate ourselves, other carers, and the general public on who we are, what we do, and exactly what's going on in the system so that we can make some really positive changes. So I hope everybody's heard that. And thank you, Olivia, because you've got a wealth of experience and it's coming from somebody who really does know what she's talking about. And that's all my guests on here.
Thank you.
Both of you see leadership from different angles, still very valued. Love it. Love everything you said. What do you see leaders doing?
I think my leadership team sort of asked the question, how are you doing? Like, how are you? What can we, what's not working
Questions.
well? And actively listening and sort of put it in sort of into place a plan to address any issues which aren't working. My wonderful deputy manager, she does my supervisions, and the times where I've gone right, I feel X, Y, and Z is causing me a personal issue. In how I work, how I feel, and sort of being able to speak to someone and sort of be given practical and sort of emotional support, I suppose, as well. So it's actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk, I'd say.
Yeah, lead with action.
Definitely.
Love it. Olivia, what's your thoughts?
I
I know you're
think,
agreeing a lot to that. So what can you
yeah,
add?
from my perspective, maybe I'll go from a case of what I see leaders not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably something I'll touch on quite a lot throughout this, is making decisions in rooms where care workers are not present. And
It's
when
a really good point.
decisions or policies are, you know discussed or decisions are made around these kind of policies, we see them happen in a boardroom where care workers are not present, they're not central to the discussion, and their voices haven't or are still actively not being heard or listened to or sought after. And that's the kind of, I guess, the whole point of our Care Worker Advisory Board and Champions project is that we want to get care workers a seat at the table. The adult social care sector employs nearly 2 million people across the UK. And our argument is that when you are missing 2 million people's perspectives, things are going to go wrong, and the gap
Yeah.
between policy and practice will forever remain and only widen. Because what care workers offer is they offer knowledge, expertise, insight, they offer professionalism that
Yeah.
often can't be found in these rooms where these discussions are happening, because the people don't necessarily have the experience of being a care worker, yet they're making these decisions that will, impact care workers' lives and then have a knock-on effect on the whole of the sector. And we've seen that with the recent Home Office proposals.
You're absolutely right.
That's
Absolutely right.
obviously that's having a detrimental impact on migrant care workers and their experiences of hyper exploitation. But we're also
Hmm.
now starting to see how that's going to have a knock-on effect on the whole
Ripple
sector.
effect. Yeah.
And if you actually got international care workers into a room and spoke with them about their experiences on sponsorships, or with any experience that they've had working in the sector, you know, you would find that they have a very, very, very different opinion and
Yeah.
experiences to
You
what is being presented in
are
these
right.
policies.
As a self-employed carer, I also act as an advocate for the client. So if there was a meeting or something needed to be written, I would be involved, and the family would put me forward to do that. And I almost think I want to involve the family as well as the carer. So they have a nominated carer they bring into that meeting. I think that would work beautifully. But it's about that alignment, isn't it? And getting the culture just right. Thank you, Olivia. How do you feel about that, Annie? It's brilliant, isn't it? We all need to hear that.
I have been quite lucky to have attended a couple of roundtables as part of the CWC advisory board and sitting with the Department of Health and Social Care and listening to my amazing colleagues just go, because I have a very different experience and lived experience. Because and sometimes never expressed, I feel very lucky that I am
Yeah.
valued by my company, that I love
Yeah.
my job. And every single person at that table loves their job, but has a different experience of feeling valued. And sometimes when you're in the room, like with the Department of Health and Social Care, these policies have been made without us. They are not listening to us. They are promising us the world. Is it the second
Yeah.
time this has been sort of consulted on now? And now with a new prime minister coming in, we're just thinking, is it going to be
Don't start
2028?
me on that.
So,
Another one. Another one, everybody, we didn't vote for. Just
yeah.
gonna bring that into the mix, but never
And
mind.
and it's a lot. And you do sometimes feel that they are inviting us just to say they've done it. But we are just going to keep shouting. We are going to keep raising our voices and we are going to keep demanding to be listened to.
Brilliant. Let's now fly into section 2 because you guys have absolutely smashed that. So we're going to now talk about interaction, relationships. You're laughing, Olivia, but I'm being so honest. It's amazing. And power, power. So Annie, you're with people in the small, ordinary moments. How do those everyday interactions shape someone's sense of autonomy and inclusion?
So one of the difficult things about when I was looking at these questions is for us as care workers, we just do our job. So I've sort of
I
had a
know.
little thing
Yeah.
and we just,
Just trying to think a bit deeper about it,
yeah.
aren't we?
And one of my key residents said the most important thing to him was just a staff member going, "Hi, how are you doing today?" And just showing that interest and knowing that by having that conversation, by showing that interest, that he felt valued as a person and as such was able to feel more confident. His, emotional needs were being met. So yeah, those tiny moments and you forget, and it's as simple as a good morning or as a hi.
Yeah.
Um,
Saying hello to everybody.
yeah, and
So
just
that it's inclusion. Yeah.
and following it up with those questions and showing
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
And I feel like for our residents, that's how they feel included in the everyday because we are often they see us more than perhaps their family. So if we just came in, we did what we need to and left, they wouldn't have those needs met, not the social, not the emotional needs.
Mm.
It's just sitting down, sharing a drink and makes them feel like a person. They've been seen, they've felt heard. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Olivia, here we go. From a narrative and policy perspective, how do we create conditions where practitioners can build meaningful, human centered relationships rather than transactional ones?
It's a very good question, and something that I've kind of often thought about. I think Annie kind of touched on it earlier with that kind of
She did, yeah.
feeling of a tick box exercise.
Mm,
I think it also kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about a cultural shift
yeah.
in terms of, recognizing care workers as professionals who possess skill,
Mm,
responsibility, all of these things that you need to be a care worker. I think in terms of kind of building meaningful human-centered relationships, I think again it goes back to recognizing that care workers are human beings with their own needs, wants, desires from life, and those should be recognized. But I think actually again I'm going to build on what Annie said earlier. It's about asking the questions.
mm,
You know, so oftentimes
yeah.
things happen to care workers, whether that's training that's put forward to them or technology systems that are put forward to them. There's very little in terms of consultation or co-production or engagement.
Hmm.
And I think that it begins with asking a question, like Annie said, if it comes to training, what do you want to develop in your career? Or,
Mm,
if it comes to using a technological system, what's working for you? What's not working
yeah.
for you? This is helping you to do your job, or is it actually hindering you from doing your job? I think those are the kind of like small steps that are really needed that, can then snowball into meaningful engagement and then kind of becomes part and parcel of the role where they're going, oh, we've got this new thing. We haven't actually spoken with the care workers in our
Mm,
organisation about this. I think it's about doing these small things to make it ingrained in practice, to make sure that
yeah.
you are engaging with care workers, that you are,
Yeah.
consulting them on various things because, like I've said a million and one times, and you'll probably hear me say them again a million and one times in this recording, but care workers have the knowledge. They are the key to unlocking so many things in the sector.
And that's what I love because that's what this podcast is all about. So say it again and again if you want. It's very
I will
aligned.
do.
And I think me and Annie completely understand that. She's
100%.
nodding a lot
Yeah.
because this is audio only. So I just want you
That's
to
all
know
good.
what's going on. Across both your experiences, so I don't mind who answers this, what structural or cultural barriers most often get in the way of good interaction and how could system design remove them?
Okay, and I'll jump in. So we're entering a digital era now, and obviously we have digital care systems, and we have to record everything. Do I understand? And it is brilliant, especially if you need to find something. But
Mm,
it is, and certainly with AI as well, the impact is having on how much time we can then spend doing things with our residents, supporting them. So it's a really difficult place to be in to sort of manage that technological sort of aspect versus person-centered care and actually being on. So I think that's something we are, as a carer, is struggling a little bit with as to how system design could help with that. I'm not sure, but we, I mean, I'm in my 40s, so I'm a proud millennial. I've been through several technological changes.
yeah. We've had to learn on the job, haven't we, Annie?
100%. But I do have some wonderful older colleagues who don't um,
Yeah.
adapt to technology quite that well. So we're just in a weird space. I think there's a lot of work to be done for ease of use, for example, that might
Yeah.
help. Yeah, there's
I
my
think
5K on
so.
that.
Yeah. Olivia, how could system design remove them, do you think, from your perspective?
Hmm. In terms of kind of like the structural and cultural barriers to interaction and kind of like removing them, gosh, it's one of those things where it's kind of like a where do you want me to begin?
Yeah, yeah. Can you say
You
one
know,
or two?
yeah, one or
Or
two. I think we need a complete overhaul on this societal misconception that care workers are not skilled. We need to somehow work, and we are working to get rid of that, because that is first and foremost a barrier. if people are, or if those who are designing tools and or creating systems are going into this process with a mindset of, the people that are going to be using this are not skilled, so we don't really need to
Mm.
engage with them, that's already a problem.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of one of the first things. And I guess in terms of system design, removing them, I think it goes back to this element of actually understanding the diversity of the workforce, recognizing that, as Annie was saying, not everybody is digitally inclined or not
Mm.
everybody has the power to speak up, and actually design systems with that in mind.
Yeah.
Recognize the individual barriers that people may be facing and kind of create a way around that. So, for example, with
Yeah.
our Care Worker Advisory Board and Champions project, we have some individuals who are international care workers who cannot speak out without an anonymity, because there is a real threat to them. So we create
Right.
anonymous channels or routes for them to
Wow.
be able to share feedback, or if they speaking or engaging in kind of roundtables or etc.,
Mm.
we make sure that it's a safe place for them to be able to interact,
Well, that is
because
good.
their experiences and their voices are just as
Mm.
important as everyone else in the room, and they should be able
Yeah.
to and have every single right to, kind of be in and be part of that conversation.
Love that. That's brilliant. Thanks for sharing that because I didn't know about that. And that's a really important point about creating a safe space. Annie, what does emotional intelligence look like on the floor, especially in pressured environments?
Oof, this is a big one.
Yeah. No pressure, Annie, but it's emotional intelligence again.
Yeah. So I think from a personal point of view is I am neurodivergent. So I process things slightly differently, but having a management team that understands that is brilliant. And also I've done a lot of like personal reflection to understand that,
Reflection, yeah, is a big
yeah,
one.
to manage myself. And I'm in a good place in my 40s now. So my teenage drama years, they've gone, they've gone. But what it means now is I'm a much more confident, calm person. And sort of
Yeah.
bringing that to my shift, I feel helps the people around me. So you come in and you go, you know what? We may have 100 different fires to put out today. We might have some issues getting professional support, but we can manage this. So that's fine. And then understanding that we've got, because we have a morning support worker and an evening support worker, and they are two people with their own emotional needs, and
Mm.
understanding that this is a high pressure job. Sometimes you have people screaming at you. And
It is high pressure. People don't realize that. They
yeah,
think it's easy money and they have a
and
shock.
exactly. And on the street, if someone screamed at you, you would respond in a very different way to what we would do now. So it's about offering them support, training to understand why this person might be in a place, but also ensuring we have systems in place like the employee assistance program, which offers counseling. And it is a very
Uh-huh.
fast turnaround. So we have that emotional support. And it's just understanding very, very basic point that we are all human. We all have emotions. There are days we take the stress from the job home. And I've
That's hard.
expressed,
Let's be honest. We know we
yeah.
need to do it. It is hard.
I mean, I've put it into my garden, so I've got like an entire like field of flowers outside because of how stressed my job could be sometimes. It's like again,
A jungle.
basically, yeah. I've got strawberries growing out my ears at the moment, but it's about encouraging staff to find that outlet as well and to
Yeah, to find that
understand
outlet.
that,
What's good for you.
yeah,
Lovely
tomorrow's gonna be
answer
better.
and very flexible and very you. So that's
Yes.
we've all got to do that. We've got to find our thing.
Exactly. And I think just to touch on what Olivia said, that people believe that care workers are unskilled and it's slow labor. As someone who came from retail and hospitality, I had that notion and I love my job. And I understand now how hard it is. And I
Mm.
think, if nothing else from these podcasts, I just want people to understand that we are constantly training. We are constantly getting new policy updates, new guidance.
Mm.
I administer medication, so I do annual
The
training.
medication's a big one. Yeah.
100%. We are
Nightmare.
constantly learning, developing, changing. We are flexible and our brains, they're human. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And this podcast is also learning. I talk to so many different guests. So this is training me. Um, And, hopefully my listeners are also getting a lot from it too, because I think it's really important to understand what's going on out there. And I'm just using technology to get it out to as many people as possible and to as many experts. So, absolutely, I love that. Olivia, how does emotional intelligence show up in the stories and insights you hear from care workers?
It shows up in everything, absolutely everything. You know, we will often hear from care workers, whether that's members of our advisory board and champions project, or whether it's kind of our wider network of care workers, who consistently show, kind of like emotional intelligence, skill, dedication, professionalism, all of these things that you need to be a care worker. And so it's so clear that care workers are often, best placed person to tell you exactly everything about the person who is drawing on care and support. They know them like the back of their hands. They can walk into a room, look at their face and go, I know exactly what kind of, mood they're in at the moment, or they can understand whether something is going to escalate, but they then also know how to de-escalate. There's all of these
There's the
things.
skill.
Yeah,
There's the skill.
this skill. And not everybody possesses that skill.
No.
And I think it's something that we've seen, kind of with various elements of trying to recruit care workers to the sector, with people saying anyone can be a care worker because you don't have to have any qualifications to be one. Not everyone can be a care worker. That is absolutely okay to admit. Not everybody possesses the skill, the emotional intelligence, all of these
Yeah,
things that are needed to be a care worker. But it shows up every single day. It shows up in the big moments, it shows up in the small moments.
it
It
does.
just it's so clear across everything that the care workers do, the kind of emotional intelligence that they possess, to be able to deliver outstanding care and support to people that need it.
Absolutely. And in series one, I talk all about reflection with a few other experts, and they explain what it is and emotional intelligence. And I've been in the industry 24 years and I now have my own care business. And I even say now, and experts have agreed with me on this, I think the job chooses you. I don't think we choose the job, and I think it's a vocation. It's not all about obviously, I'm not saying don't qualify yourself and learn, but it's not all about the qualifications. It's about who you are as a person and are you aligned with the work. And I think that's something really important to understand right from the start. When we're thinking about being skilled professional carers. So I love that. It really ties in with other episodes. Obviously, listen to the experts, not just what I'm saying. And finally, what small, often overlooked behaviours make the biggest difference to someone's sense of power and agency? I don't mind who answers this. We're in a group conversation. Anyone?
No, I think a couple of things really. I think the first one is offering choice.
Thank you.
Choice
Yeah. Amy
is
touched
a
on that earlier
really,
with
yeah,
autonomy. Brilliant.
is a really big thing. And for example, there are so many careers out there that you are able to choose or kind of like develop on certain aspects of your career that you want to develop on. Care workers should also have that. If there's a specific interest in dementia care and they really want to develop their
Absolutely.
skills on that, they should
Yeah.
be given the choice to develop their career in a way that
Yeah.
they see fit. um and I think
Perfect.
the other thing as well, and it's something that both Annie and I have touched on before. It's about asking the questions, and I know we've spoken about it quite a lot, but it really does boil down to, if you ask them the question of, how do you want to develop your career, or how do you want to, whatever it is, it's that element of turning it around from framing it to it happening to them, to actually them having the power and agency and control, and
Yeah.
putting it back into their hands, because it's so important. Because if you feel like you lack power and agency, then that's going to really impact morale.
Brilliant. Smashed it again. Love it.